Welcome back to the channel. My name is Lee, and if you are interested in growing in your mental, emotional, relational, spiritual, and bodily health, you've come to the right place. I by no means know it all, but I am passionate about these subjects, and I am eager to grow in these areas of my life and eager to come alongside of you as you seek to grow in those areas in your life. And so welcome to the party. So glad you're here. Listen, in the last couple videos, we've been talking a lot about marital conflict, particularly relating to communication and arguments and built up tension, or what I've called inflammation in our marriages. And we've offered a couple rules or practical skill sets that we could apply that may be helpful and add value to us when we're navigating these particular conversations, when we're attempting to communicate, and especially when there's already inflammation or tension in the relationship. Today, we're going to stay on the same topic, but this will probably be my last video for a little bit regarding the topic, and so kind of tie a bow on the three-part package here. And we're going to talk about why arguments typically happen in the first place and why they usually will get out of hand. And I think this is incredibly important because if we can identify this, we can catch it before it happens and make the proper adjustments. And I'll just go ahead and forewarn you, this may be my shortest video ever. Famous last words, watch it go like 25 minutes. No, but this may be my shortest video ever simply because it's not a complicated concept. And my hope is that I'll present it to you and it will be sufficient for you to take back and think about, hey, how often is this relevant in my context, and how often does this actually lead to that tennis match of arguments that is so common and so prevalent in so many relationships? And what can I do to avoid it? What can I do better? But not only that, can me and my spouse get on the same page and come to an agreement on, hey, here are some rules for how we're going to communicate and how we're going to engage, rules of engagement, if you will. And if the husband and wife can get in unity on some of these things and practice these things together, I just believe we're going to see a lot of amazing fruit from our willingness to be humble, from our willingness to put our spouse above ourself, as the Word of God says, consider others as more important than yourself. And as we begin to adopt these principles that Jesus taught us to love and to serve and to consider others as more important than ourselves, and we pair them with these practical, tangible skill sets and rules, I have just a high degree of hope that they will add value to you. So, without further ado, what is the primary reason for a lot of arguments that we have in our marriage? But quite honestly, as I've said in the last two videos, this can apply even outside of marriage in any interpersonal relationship you have. If you get in a conflict with a coworker or a boss, or maybe an employee, or maybe a best friend, or maybe just someone that you don't really know very much, but you just have disagreements. This one reason is very applicable in a lot of situations, but I'm hoping it's going to help you in your marriage. And here it is. This right here is the reason for the vast majority of our arguments and tension. And you may be saying, Lee, where are you going with this? If I were to take, let's just say you and I are having a conversation, and we have a third party, and that third party were to ask you and were to ask me right now, which side of the cup is the handle on? Well, I would say right, and you, if your screen isn't mirrored, would probably say the left. Well, my question now is, who's right? Am I right, or are you right? Do you see this? And this is the very thing that leads to the vast majority of our arguments. we are so fixated on the way we see the issue. And the way we see the issue, the handle is on the right-hand side. But the way you see the issue, the handle is not on the right-hand side. This is just plain fact. It's on the left for you. And we do this. We fixate on the issue. We lock into our perspective because it seems like the only rational and tangible option. The only way that you can look at this is from this angle, this way, and there is just, no matter how bad I want the handle to be on the left, it's going to stay on the right. It's not going anywhere because it's fixed. So how do we fix this issue? There's only one way to resolve this and avoid the cataclysm that follows an argument where both people are seeing something that it's fixed, it's fact from where they're sitting. And yet they're butting heads like rams over this. Who is right and who is wrong? And that's exactly the point. You're both right and you're both wrong. And in every conversation and argument, there's only one way to avoid this pitfall. And that's to get up from your seat and to be willing to go sit next to your spouse and look at it from their angle. That's called empathy. That's called walking a mile in their shoes. That's called humility. What is it called when you refuse to get up and go look at the cup from your spouse's seat? It's called arrogance. In some cases, maybe narcissism, and in some cases, insecurity. There's a whole host of reasons that we might not get up and consider what our spouse must be experiencing from where they're sitting. The reality is, just as the handle on the right-hand side is my reality, the handle being on your left-hand side is your reality. And unless I'm willing to come to terms with the idea that perhaps you have a different experience in life and you have a different reality in some ways of the way you experience and interpret and see things, unless I'm humble enough to say, okay, well, let me just try to go sit from where they're sitting and take a look at the issue from their angle, we're going to end up in the same cycles and the same patterns as we always have in the arguments. And it makes a lot of sense why we would. Because from my vantage point, that handle really is on the right-hand side, and from yours, it really is on the left-hand side. And so the solution to this, the fix to this, is to have the humility and the willingness to get up from your seat and go take a look at the issue from where your spouse is sitting, and vice versa. Spouse, you do the same thing. It takes both people walking in humility and gentleness and kindness to see a healthy marriage or any kind of interpersonal relationship. It takes two people being willing to be humble, gentle, kind, to be willing to take a step back from the way they see it and just try to put themselves in the shoes of their spouse, to feel what their spouse feels, to see what their spouse sees. And then step 2 is to communicate with empathy. Okay, I see what you see, and I even can feel what you must be feeling. Okay, so that's step 2. And then there's a third step, which most of us never make it to. Quite honestly, most of us never make it to step 2 or past step 1, which I think is why we're seeing such relational breakdown societally. But step 1 is to get out of your seat and go sit where your spouse is sitting and to look at the issue from their side. Step 2 is to communicate what you're realizing as you sit on that side of the cup. Communicate what you're feeling. Communicate that you see what your spouse must be seeing, and give them a sense of validation for the way they see things. That isn't so crazy when you come and sit on this side of the cup. I get it. That's valid. And I feel what you must be feeling. And so that matters to me. And now we're going to take it in consideration. Step 3, after you communicate, is to allow your empathy to be converted to and channeled through compassion. You cannot have compassion if you don't first have empathy. And what I love so much about Jesus' ministry and what made it so powerful is he ministered out of compassion, which means he first had empathy. He oftentimes would, it says in the Gospels that the crowds would gather and he would look upon them and have compassion on them because they were like sheep without a shepherd. And what this tells me is that Jesus first had to feel what it feels like to be a sheep without a shepherd. He had to first get in touch with how frightening that must be to not have a sense of security or a sense of care or provision that a shepherd provides. He had to put himself in the shoes of those he was going to be compassionate about. And from the place of being able to feel what they must feel from the reality that they are living within, he was then able to be compassionate. And then his ministry was so incredibly powerful because it was motivated and fueled from a place of compassion. And so we're going to follow that model in our marriages. We're going to humble ourselves and take a minute to look at the issue, look at the cup from where our spouse is sitting. We're then going to communicate to our spouse and validate them. I can see how you would feel this way, or why you would interpret things this way or come to these conclusions. Totally get it. That's valid and fair. And then 3, we're going to let that empathy be converted to compassion, which means we're now going to act in the benefit of our spouse in some way, being motivated by the newfound empathy that we gained from coming on their side of the cup and taking a seat for just a few moments. And I believe if we do that, we'll see much healthier relationships, whether that's in our marriage, our workplace, our extended family, friendships, whatever that may be. But here you have it. Why so much turmoil and so much friction and so many arguments? It's because we're sitting looking at the same issue, but we're across from each other. And from my side, the handle's on the right, but from where you're sitting, the handle's on the left. And I believe these 3 steps are 3 great ways to combat that dilemma and the problems that creates. And so here we are, less than 15 minutes. I think we're right around 13 minutes for this video. And I hope it was a good, though it may not have been lengthy in quantity, I hope it was good in quality and that this will be helpful for you and maybe something you can take back and reflect upon in your relationships to see if this is applicable to you and if you feel like these things will add value to you, these practices. And then perhaps you and your spouse can get on the same page and come to an agreement for how you want to operate these rules of engagement within your relationships. And my prayer is that we will see an abundance of fruit from your life and from your relationships, but that these will add tremendous value to you. But hey, listen, I want to tell you something. If you have not already checked out my book, The Invitation, I would invite you to check out this book. It's the first book I've written in a very, very long time. I'm very excited about it. It's going to help you live an abundant life through finding kingdom identity and purpose. And if you're anything like me, I just believe that we are in a epidemic right now of identity crisis. And I just believe that this book is going to be incredibly helpful for many, many people to find finally who they are. And from this place, they're going to see an increase in self-worth, self-confidence. They're going to, for the first time in their life, perhaps realize what they're here for, why God created them and put them on the earth. And this is going to give them an incredibly profound sense of purpose and meaning. And I just believe it's going to bring a lot of health and life to people's souls. And so you can grab that on Amazon in paperback, audio, or ebook, and you can scan the QR code that's on the screen right now. And so without further ado, as always, until next time, God bless you guys.